Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Draft Party, Dean Susanna Payne, Wellington Shire Councillor Gary Stevens, Locksmore residents, visitors and guests. This is something different for me. Welcome to our Anzac commemorative service. 105 years since the start of the First World War, 80 years since the start of the Second. We have not forgotten those brave men and women who have fallen in all conflicts or passed away since. I would now like to ask Vice President Dick Clay to make the Anzac address.
Press on, up.
We're gathered here to honour the memory of those gallant men and women who sacrificed their lives in service to their country. By your presence here today, I know there is no doubt in your hearts and your minds that today is especially significant. In cities and towns throughout Australia and overseas, ceremonies like this are a permanent reminder to our youth of today that our forefathers thought this wonderful country of ours was worth fighting and dying for. I have often thought that perhaps the term Anzac has been misunderstood. It is not a place, nor is it a campaign or a war. It is not a ceremony or a parade either. The term Anzac comes from the words Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, as I'm sure you're all aware of. However, I feel the term Anzac has transcended the physical meaning to become a spirit and inspiration which embodies the qualities of courage, discipline, sacrifice, self-reliance, and in Australian terms, that of mateship and a fair go. That to me is what an Anzac conjures in my mind. These days we try not to glorify war. All we ask is a simple recognition of the sacrifice, commitment and unselfish devotion by those young men and women who served so valiantly for their country and what they believed in. So much so that knowingly went to their deaths. Our youth have always come together in a crisis. Individual desires and ambitions were put aside. I'm sure whatever some may think about our people of today, our youth are our future, and we need to safeguard that investment. I say to you, do not let what we have forged throughout the Anzac spirit be lost to the indifference or lack of responsibility. On the other hand, we as parents and community leaders need to give you the direction and advice that will prepare you for the future. The fundamental purpose of today has been and should be to pay homage to our veterans and those who gave their lives. In doing so, we ensure recognition by our youth that peace and freedom have always required the sacrifice in the past. Those we honour have left to Australia a tradition of courage, selflessness and a fine reputation to follow for the future. I've enjoyed the opportunity to be with you today and consider it a real honour to make this Anzac address. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Dean Susanna Payne.
Thank you. It is an honour and a privilege to be here with you today. We sing, O God, our help. prayer for Anzac Day and then invite you to join me in saying the Lord's Prayer. God of love and liberty, we bring our thanks today for the peace and security we enjoy. We remember those who in time of war faithfully served their country. We pray for their families and for ourselves whose freedom was won at such a cost. And hasten the day when nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither learn war anymore. This we pray in the name of the one who gave his life for the sake of the world, Jesus Christ, our Redeemer. Amen. I invite you to pray with me. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Susanna. We'll now get Murray Brown up, please, to do the Anzac Requiem. Thanks, Murray.
Good morning, everybody. On this day, above all days, we remember those Australian men and women who died or suffered in the great tragedy of war. Excuse me. On the morning of April 25th, 1915, Australian and New Zealand troops landed under fire at Gallipoli, and it was then, and in the violent campaign which followed, that the Anzac tradition was forged. The elements of that tradition have inspired and offered an enduring example to later generations of Australians. Each year we pay homage not only to those original Anzacs, but to all who have died or were disabled in their service to this country. They enriched our nation's history. Their hope was the freedom of mankind, and we remember with pride their courage, their compassion and their comradeship. They served on land and sea and the air, and in many places throughout the world. Not only do we honour the memory of those Australians who have fallen in battle, we share the sorrow of those who have mourned them and of all who have been the victims of armed conflict. On this day we remember with sympathy those Australians who have suffered as prisoners of war and those who, because of war, have had their lives shortened or handicapped. We recall such staunch friends and allies, and especially those of the first Anzac Day. May we and our successors prove worthy of their sacrifice. Thank you.
Now we have guest speaker from the RAF Sale, Flight Sergeant David Biggood.
Good morning. President Locksport RSL members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I'd like to pay tribute to all past and present serving members of all three branches of the ADF who have served with courage, professionalism and honour. Whatever your country of birth, race or religion, you have served Australia with distinction, and we honour your commitment to the service of Australia. Anzac Day is a time of reflection and remembrance. We remember those we have served with. We remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. We remember and reflect on those servicemen and women who have returned from active service, changed people. We reflect on the worthiness of the task we undertook and look back in pride in our achievements during our active service. We remind ourselves where the members of the ADF have served, from China, South Africa, Europe, the Middle East, Korea, Vietnam, Malaysia, Borneo. Australians have and continue to serve. From tours of duty as little as a few weeks to tours extending to multiple years. Members of the ADF have served and made personal, physical and mental sacrifices that are almost impossible to accurately calculate. Yet they continue to serve and serve proudly. We honour the family and friends who have been left behind and have had to endure long periods of times without the comfort of our loved ones. We honour and respect the organisations such as RSL who advocate on behalf of past and currently serving members in their times of need and thank them for their support. We do not seek to glorify war in any of its form. Rather, we seek to honour and glorify the sacrifice and commitment that all members, past and present, of all branches of the ADF have constantly displayed over the years. Let us reflect on why we are here today and carry those thoughts from this moment forward to remind us of those who have served, those who continue to serve, those who have remained behind, those who have returned as changed people, and especially those who did not return to Australian shores. Thank you.
Fight the good fight.
I'd now like to call up Highland's Shire Councillor Kerry Stevens, please.
Good morning and welcome to you all. It's great to see such a wonderful group of people here today for this Anzac Day ceremony, and thank you very much for coming along. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. And thank you for inviting me to speak at this important ceremony of remembrance for Anzac Day. Anzac Day itself honours the anniversary of the first major military action in Gallipoli, fought by Australian and New Zealand forces during World War I in 1915. Australia lost 8,000 soldiers and New Zealand almost 3,000 in that campaign. It was a military failure, but was very important in forging our nation and helping it to become a separate, distinct country. And we still gather today on the 25th of April to pay our respects to the courage of those young Australians who gave the ultimate sacrifice 104 years ago today. It is also important to acknowledge that many of our soldiers came from many different countries to become part of Australia, including many Indigenous Australians. We also know that we had a great many local women who provided service during these campaigns, some also unfortunately making the ultimate sacrifice. And many of those soldiers who were lucky enough to return home did so damaged both physically and emotionally. And unfortunately, we didn't realise the cost to our soldiers for many years. The casualties of the Gallipoli campaign and other battles are considerable, not just for the soldiers out in the fields, but also the families and friends at home. Today, I'd like us to remember the sacrifices and commemorate the lives of all Australian servicemen and women killed in wars, conflicts and peacekeeping operations, lest we forget.
Thank you, Gary. Next one's the poem Lest We Forget by Ian Coate, done by the Locksport Primary. The students, here they come. Thank you.
Thank you to our soldiers for standing at the front. There is a cost to freedom which you must bear the brunt. We don't always appreciate the duties that you've done. We soon forget in peacetime the battles that you've won.
But do you not inspire of us, ignore our lives, let us vigilance? For without you there to brave the pass, enemies will get through, and on that day, we'll wish we had maintained support for you.
Carnival Party 18. Straight.
Now I have the Going Down of the Sun, read by Ray Johnson.
I crouched in the shallow trench on that hell-exposed beach, steep rising foothills bare of cover, a landscape poke-marked with war's inevitable litter, piles of stores, equipment, ammunition, and the weird contortions of death sculptured in Australian flesh. I saw the going down of the sun on that first Anzac Day, the chaotic maelstrom of Australian bloodletting. I fought in the frozen mud of the Somme, in the blazing destroyer exploding in the North Sea. I fought on the perimeter of Tobruk, crashed a flaming wreckage in a fighter over New Guinea, lived with the damned in a place called Chengi, fought in the snow at a place called Korea, and again in the jungles of Malaya, Borneo and South Vietnam. I was your mate, the kid across the street, the medical student, the graduate, the mechanic at the corner garage, the baker brought you to breed at the gardener, brought you the bread, the gardener who cut your lawns, and the clerk who sent you your phone bill. I was a private in the army, a naval commander, and an Air Force bombardier. No man knows me, no name marks my tomb, for I am every Australian serviceman, for I am the unknown soldier. I died for a cause I held just in the service of my land, that you and yours may stay in freedom. I am proud to be Australian. Thank you.
We now come to the laying of the wreaths. Vice President of the Sub-Branch, Dick Clay. Followed by Royal Australian Air Force. Followed by Sub-Branch Women's. Wellington Shire. Locksport Primary School. Members of the community then. That looks like the end of the wreaths. I now like to call on the ode to be done by Brenda Valiant.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the honour to recite the ode on this very special day. Welcome to everyone to the Locksport RSL. Please be upstanding to honour all those who paid the supreme sacrifice in all wars and conflicts. They shall grow not old, as we, who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget. Thank you. Enjoy your day.
now have National Anthem of New Zealand. National Anthem of Australia. On behalf of the Committee of Management, Locksport OSL Sub-Branch, I'd like to thank the following very much. Dean Susanna Payne, RAF personnel, Wellington Shire, member of the OSL Sub-Branch and Women's Auxiliary, Locksport Primary School, sound technician Ian in the background there. Robin Keatley on the trumpet, Rob Boyd on the bagpipes, became cook last night, couldn't be here today. Any visitors to Locksport, guests, you know which ones you are. Mainly Locksport, terrific. Bad time to, I can get in the club rooms. I'm waiting on Paul to give me a tap to say that the tap is on. But anyway, please join us all back at the club rooms for a light lunch and refreshments. Thank you once again.
Party. Yeah, I know.